Hey everybody, Jeff Miller here, head of GMAT instruction at Target Test Prep. In today's video, we're going to talk about tips on how to get faster at GMAT Verbal, so let's get going. Tip number one of my favorites, when you first start off with your practice, do it untimed. Yes, that might seem counterintuitive because we all know, hey, the GMAT is a timed exam and we need to be fast in what we're doing and cognizant of the clock. But if you don't have your accuracy down, if you don't have your knowledge down, your processes down, none of that's going to come to fruition on the actual test because you're just rushing through things. So what you need to do is, first and foremost, take your time. Understand the question types. What are you looking for in reading comp passages? How should you be analyzing a critical reasoning question stem? Things like that where you know that you have everything in place to do things efficiently. Now here's the cool part. As you become more accurate, you will become faster without even realizing it, meaning it'll happen organically. So when you first start off with your prep, slow down, don't worry about the clock, and I promise you, you'll eventually get faster. Number two, remove your inefficiencies. There's so many inefficiencies that happen when we attack GMAT verbal questions that slow us down. For example, you may think that you're saving time by reading the question stem of a critical reasoning question and then reading the stem itself or the passage itself. No, don't do that. All that's going to do is throw you off and it's going to get you out of your rhythm. Same thing with reading comp. A lot of people will go in, they'll read the first question in the reading comp passage and say, well, I'm going to look for that as I read through my passage. Well, what happens then? Then you're not really reading the passage holistically. You're going through trying to find the information that just matches up with that question. So then by the time you get to the end, even if you found the appropriate information, you're going to realize, oh boy, I don't really know what this passage said. I don't know the main idea. I don't know the viewpoints. Then all of a sudden you got to go back, reread it and regroup. And certainly that's not going to make you faster. It's going to make you slower. So get rid of those inefficiencies and you will always be able to then speed up. Tip number three, read carefully and deliberately, okay? So yes, I don't mean go at a snail's pace, but when you're going through a critical reasoning passage, when you're going through a reading comp passage, you got to take your time. If you're just bowling through it to say, all right, I got through that passage super quick, now what? Well, what happens when you get that question wrong? Remember, there's a difference between just being quick and fast to be fast and quick and being fast while being deliberate and careful. So you have to find the balance between those two. So when you're going through these passages, yes, you can't go, as I said, at a snail's pace, but you got to be careful and deliberate. So you need to pay attention to details. What are you looking for? In a critical reasoning passage, are you looking for the conclusion? Are you finding evidence? Do you know where those things are located? In a reading comp passage, are you looking at the difference between certain viewpoints? Are you noticing when arguments contradict each other? So all of those things you have to look for. So by the time you get through either a critical reasoning passage or a reading comp passage, you have a very good idea of what it is you read, which will give you the best possible chance to correctly and efficiently answer the question and thus organically speeding you up. Tip number four, be careful with your note taking. So note taking is important. I agree, especially in reading comp, you want to take notes. Now, why do I have you take notes? Not so you necessarily go back to the notes and then use those to answer questions. For me, taking notes is about making you an active reader, putting the things in your own words in shorthanded ways so it's not taking you too much time, but not reciting the whole passage in your notes. If you do that, you're going to be super slow, and I don't even know how meaningful those notes are going to be. So you're careful with your notes. You take them to ensure that you're understanding what you're reading in real time, and that's going to help you by the time you get to the end of the passage truly understand it. And if you truly understand it, as you get to questions, you're going to be able to answer them more quickly, more efficiently, thus speeding you up. Tip number five, avoid pre-thinking and critical reasoning. We talk about this a lot. Now, why do we say that? Well, let's say you get into a strengthener question or a weakener critical reasoning question, right? Well, what happens when you pre-think the weakening of an argument and your pre-thought answer isn't there, but you're laser focused on how you pre-thought it? The issue there is you're going to be trying to find that in the answer choices. You're going to miss everything else that's going on in those answer choices. And the moment you don't find your pre-thought answer, you got to circle back and redo those. No one wants to do that. That's a waste of time. That's going to slow you down. So if you eliminate pre-thinking and look at each critical reasoning question holistically, whether it's a weaken the argument or strengthen the argument, you're going to be much faster, much more efficient, finding the correct answer, saving time by missing the pre-thought answer. And again, that's going to make you faster in GMAT Verbal. Number 6, my final tip is do not get bogged down with the details of reading comp passages. They are packed with details. We all know this. That's why we don't like reading them. But when you go through that initial read of the reading comp passage, just as I said with your note-taking, don't get crazed with the details. Well, you need to know the details at some point for certain questions. You will. But remember, as you answer questions about that reading comp passage, those details are going to come to light because you're going to be referencing back to the passage each time you answer a question. So while a detail might seem important at first, yeah, understand that you saw it, keep it moving. Get through the passage, get the macro down, get the different arguments down, and the general idea. And then as you answer specific questions, then you can focus on those details. But if you are caught up in those details during your first read, it is going to waste a lot of time. And again, we want you to be efficient. We want you to be fast. So if you avoid those details in your first read, it'll make you faster at reading comp and thus all of GMAT Verbal. All right, everybody. Great video today. I had a really good time showing you some steps you can take to get faster at GMAT Verbal. Please follow these steps. You'll be shocked at how much faster you'll get just by following these tips here today. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to our channel. Always leave comments. We'd love to hear them. We want to know what videos you want to see in the future, so please leave those comments too. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll talk soon.